Abby Quinn.
What auditorium is this? Is this, what is this, 13?
Three.
Oh!
We got a tight 5.
Auditorium 3, that's a big deal, dude. No, I don't know.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
Yeah.
Quinn and Billy, let's start with sort of just the beginning. Like, when did you guys start sort of dreaming this up?
I guess, yeah, in 2019, Billy and I became friends on a set that we both worked on as actors, and both shared a lot of the same sensibilities, a lot of the same movies, and music, and we just, we really hit it off, and we both knew that we wanted to be filmmakers from a really young age and wanted to make something together. So we just kind of started writing, not knowing, what was going to come out of it. But we were particularly inspired by teen comedies, coming-of-age comedies that we had grown up with that we felt like weren't really around as much anymore. And coupled with my kind of love for slashers as like a little kid and like special effects makeup, we kind of just started writing this thing, and it took a long time to, now it's out, which is so incredible. And I was like, I was like 16, Billy was 19 when we first started writing this movie, so it's been quarter of my life. So yeah, right? Is that right? Quarter of my life? 6 years? Wait, does that make sense? That makes no sense.
No, more.
Yeah. Anyways, more than a quarter of my life. I've worked on this movie, and so
That's crazy, dude. That is actually crazy, because it's only been like 23% of my life. So.
Yeah.
You're young.
I've beat you. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to make, you already just said this, so I'm going to say it again. We kind of wanted to make like a sleepover movie. Like that was the thing that we talked about, these movies that we grew up just adoring and like loving watching. In the theaters, but oftentimes these were movies that we were too young to see when they came out. So that idea of being like, what do you guys want to watch? And then you're like, oh, we've seen Superbad like 30,000 times. There's gotta, we're like, we gotta keep making them so there's people who can keep having like a few more options. So it's a dream come true to have it out theatrically, and we're so excited.
Why was the camp setting so like fruitful for you guys? Like, why did you want to sort of do a camp horror?
That's why there's two reasons. There's two reasons. One, I think selfishly, we both had this romantic idea of going to summer camp. We never went to summer camp really. I went to basketball camp for like 1 week and it didn't go so well. But I always wanted to be a kid who went to summer camp because I had friends who went to summer camp. I had a friend named Billy Hochberg who went to summer camp a lot and talked about it all the time. And that always sort of stuck with me. And then same thing with Finn, like we didn't have that camp experience, and we kind of wanted to give it to ourselves a little later on in a way that like I don't think Finn would be able to like go to camp as a counselor at this point in his life. I don't think it would have gone so well. So that, and then also the idea that we've been on a set sometimes feel a little bit like summer camp. There's that sort of similar energy. Everybody's away from home and everybody's doing this thing together. It's a bunch of young people sometimes. In this case it was. And then also, Finn, do you want you can say the other reasons if you want.
Oh, well, just the idea that we wanted to do a movie where we had an excuse to have a young teen ensemble all together, and there's only really a few locations you can, there were really only a few things you can do with that. Either high school or any of these places, and summer camp was just something that kept coming up because, my mom was a summer camp person. She went from, age like 8 to 18, so it was like a big part of her life, and had heard about stories growing up and also loved slashers, so it just kind of happened to be that way.
Can you tell me a little bit about sort of your, like, getting involved and sort of your initial thoughts and feelings about Jason? You sort of, Hochberg is clearly someone that you knew.
I don't know. I don't know. I put my hand to my heart, but I've literally never met him. No, never. Maybe very briefly.
No, you would have remembered.
I definitely don't remember. So if I met him, it's more insulting. In fact. No, I just did that because I've heard about him through Billy, and I love
the character they wrote and I got to play. But no, I mean, I hope he's doing well. And
I mean, he's not so much like this, but the name Hotspur was like the perfect camp name to me because I was like, yeah, that's a guy who goes to camp a lot. More people need to hear this.
I also like them too. We had a funny thing where midway through prep period, we kind of realized that we all didn't really have great experience at summer camp, but I also had this kind of like romantic yearning for grades. I went to summer camp one year and it was okay, but it wasn't. It was like more sporty than I wanted to be. I will say the photos that Jason looks at, those are my real photos from my actual time at summer camp one summer. And my favorite counselor was this counselor named Amelia, and that is her in those pictures. So that was cool. And then when we had to clear the photos, we got to reconnect. That was nice. But I can't remember what the question was.
Like what you liked about him, why it was sort of exciting to jump into him.
Yeah, I was so moved by the script. I so cared about him immediately from the way that Finn and Billy wrote him. I felt like it's kind of in the first time in his life where he has to grow up, and he's not like old to the outside world, but to that community. He is old. It's the first time that you're getting old, and that coming of age component meant a lot to me. I find it really hard to let go and transition into the next parts of your life, and I really relate to there being a safe place where you feel like you are the best version of yourself, and you have to become a better version of yourself, move on from even that.
Abby, can you talk a little bit about sort of entering this world and your experiences on set?
Yes. Similarly, I think I was just immediately drawn to the script, and at the time I was rewatching Freaks and Geeks, and we talked a little bit about Linda Cardellini's character, and I also was watching Adventureland, and it felt like Jason and Claire's relationship kind of existed in that realm, and that was really appealing to me. And also, I don't watch a lot of horror movies, but I love making them, and I just I knew that I wanted to spend more time with Billy and Finn and Fred and the rest of the cast, but I also think Claire is a bit more confrontational than I am, which is kind of therapeutic to get to play a person like that, because I feel like I'm fairly different from her. In life, right? Maybe not. And I liked her shorts. I liked the pants.
Can you talk a little bit about sort of the horror aspects and the fun of dreaming up kills in the setting? And you mentioned sort of your love of like horror makeup and how that was involved in sort of the writing and plotting of the film.
Yeah, I mean, I think like when we first started writing the film, it read more almost as, it was closer, it still had like a heart to it and stuff, it still had like a normal kind of like 3-act structure, but it was a lot goofier. It was leaned further maybe into like parody or just like more absurdist stuff, and with that came wackier, crazy kills that in my opinion like aren't as creative or weren't as creative. It was just kind of people getting picked off and like in gnarly ways, just like, oh, then you get this throat slit, and oh, and then, you know, whatever. So like nothing that really had to do with character. And then as we kept like refining the script, we ended up just like really caring about these characters, and if these characters are gonna die, it has to do with, you know, them. It has to do with their character. Their demise basically has to match up with the tone or theme of their character or their insecurities, which we think like makes some, you know, movies feel more lived in. So it was all coming from character, I would say. Yeah.
Billy, maybe you can talk a little bit about how you guys sort of figured out your own characters and this relationship between these two. This very
it was an equation. I mean, it was so hard.
I couldn't be more different from my character. It was so hard for me. But
we had the Charlie Day thing where it's like him and the chalkboard. That was like us trying to write our own characters.
There are unfortunately aspects of myself and Bobby and Finn and Chris and our dynamic, and it was a lot of fun to write. I mean, initially we had set out, we were like, well, we're making this teen comedy movie. let's be in it. Let's kill ourselves off after 15 minutes. And then we wrote the first 15 pages, and we're like, 20 minutes. And then 25 minutes rolls around, and we're like, the audience is gonna love these guys so much. We can't kill Bobby and Chris. Meanwhile, it just was us having too much fun writing it and thinking about playing it together. So
it was literally just me and Billy's like relationship and what we thought was funny, and with that, honestly, that was like one of the easier parts of writing the movie.
I think it was
it was the easiest.
It was unfortunately too easy to get in the mindset of Bobby.
Yeah.
It made too much sense to me.
And super easy for me to just be like, what? So yeah,
But it ended up being so much fun, and then by the time we got to being on set, the focus was so not on our performance. Like, the good thing is we had been writing the script for like 4 years up until that point, so we were so close to it that there was, for me at least, like very little even thinking about the performance before jumping into it. And then all of a sudden the first day rolls around and I have a scene, and I'm like, oh, I gotta like act in this thing too. But it was so much fun working with it. You have really an amazing cast that I'm so proud to have in this film as a filmmaker, but I was so happy to work with them as an actor too. Like, everybody really brought out the best in each other, and it was such a fun experience.
Well, I think we're going to go to some audience questions if anyone has any. Right in the front there.
Finn and Billy, what aspects of like being a director do you think will make you like a better actor in the future, and what aspects of being actors do you think made you better directors? My name is Brooke, by the way.
Thank you, Brooke. Did everybody hear that? Okay. I gotta stop asking. Everybody always curious.
You guys really have, because we've done a couple Q&As, these audiences, you have the best ears ever. New York ears are just unmatched.
We were in Texas. Those Texas ears are crap. We were shit. Yeah.
No, last time we were doing a screening, and I swear to God, I was like, did the same thing. I was like, did everyone hear that? Everyone shook their head yes, and there was one like older woman that was just like.
And that's why we do this. The question was, what aspects of being a filmmaker or being a director will make you, just in case there's one person, will make you a better actor moving forward, and vice versa.
I think.
And the question was from Brooke.
Okay, Brooke. So, no, I think directing this movie really makes you appreciate acting in another way, because you see it really from the outside. From the outside looking in, like, you really understand actually how much of yourself as an actor you're putting on the line, and how vulnerable it can be. And there's just this like certain kinds of like, there's just a certain kind of like language that actors, it sounds so stupid, but like there is like a kind of like lingo or just kind of way of speaking that actors are comfortable with, and there's some directors that have never like acted before, and they don't understand what it's like to be an actor, so then sometimes as an actor it can feel a bit isolating. And so it's just nice to be on the other side, so you can really understand both sides, I guess.
For me, something that was nice was it took a sort of weight off of my mind as an actor moving forward, auditioning for other stuff, because there were so many actors who came in for this movie that were so brilliant and did such amazing jobs, and just for whatever weird reason that they just weren't right for this exact part, and it was nothing to do with what they did. It just was like, we're putting together an ensemble, we're putting together a movie. There are factors that come into consideration that are completely out of people's control, and they're perfectly talented and fine actors, but it just wasn't right for this movie. So there was a little bit of a pressure taken off, like moving forward. I wasn't like, I just want to do my thing, and if it's right, it's right. You trust that, the filmmakers will make the right decision. But part of me made me feel like, if I don't get a job, it's not that I did a bad job necessarily. It's that, maybe there was maybe I was too tall. Which I don't think that's ever been a problem, but I like to think
This guy Billy's so good.
No, but there were times where it was like,
might be too tall.
This person's funny, but they're like really tall.
Right.
And then you'd be like, all right, does that
I know you see
matter?
it as an example, but
Yeah. No. It depends on the movie, but
this Billy Bryk guy, we're circling him.
He's too damn tall.
He's too damn tall.
5'9" $1/4", get out of here. It's like 5'9" ½ his shoes. Anyways, it made it easier as an actor moving forward, I think.
Who's next? Kickstarter.
I like that people are introducing themselves from now on. This is great.
I
Finn mentioned this a little bit earlier, but everything for us had to come from the characters. Like at its core, all the horror and all the comedy especially, had to come from within the characters. So if we ever jumped into a tone that felt too absurdist or a joke that felt like too jokey, I think it would make the stakes of the horror feel less real. And then same thing, if the horror ever got like way too upsetting and way too real, especially towards the beginning of the film, I think it would just take away from the comedy of it, because it'd be hard to kind of come back from. So something that, like, to me, the funniest parts in the movie come directly from these characters, like real, genuine feeling responses to these awful situations. And like, there's so many things that we're able to play with because they're so afraid. It just cranks up all their anxieties and insecurities and flaws, as opposed to wiping it away. Like there was, we talked a lot before making the film that sometimes in horror films you meet these characters and they all have these weird problems or things that they really care about. For example, Bobby cares a lot about being hot and cool, and Chris cares a lot about Shannon. Jason wants to be a leader. And then you'd think, like, okay, when people start dying, all that shit kind of goes away and your number one priority just becomes survive. But for us, it was much funnier and weirdly much more truthful for all that stuff to still be very present, and in some cases really amplified. So when everybody starts freaking out and dying, it was funnier to us that Bobby gets even more upset that people don't think he's hot. It was even funnier that Chris is like really trying to make sure that Shannon and Bobby are getting along, and that Jason's still trying to corral everybody. So that's, I think, what we always were trying to make it feel somewhat grounded and realistic by just making everything come from the characters in a truthful way.
Yeah, your hand went up right away. Yeah.
Hi guys,
So
I'm
fast.
Abby. I just want to say I really love the film, and my question is for Finn and Billy. Would you guys ever consider writing for television or even for stage, or probably another film? So what's next for you guys, honestly?
We're gonna do a Hell of a Summer play. It's gonna
The
be
first shadow.
Yeah, it's gonna be Hell of a Summer the first. Yeah, Hell of a Summer the first. Look, this is actually pretty good. No, we talk about different ideas all the time. We've written this script that for a studio that is still being developed. So that's another comedy horror, and then we have another movie that we're producing together. And we're all so close. I mean, even we were just talking to Abby about her writing, and we just kind of will continue to collaborate and be friends because. Once you find your people, it's really important to, keep that relationship strong, and yeah.
And yeah, I'd consider. I think I'm most interested in writing for film, but TV can be cool too, for sure. It just seems like a lot. It's too much. There's too much TV. It takes me long enough to write already.
It's too tall.
TV's too tall. Yeah, that's exactly right. Thank you.
I see. Yeah, in the back there.
Name?
I'm Jack's experience. Who made you guys break the most on set? Was there one person in the ensemble that was?
You want to answer that, Fred?
I'll say that I pride myself, on not breaking, and I really failed a lot on this. But Abby went on an improv run in one of the bunker scenes when we're all locked together after Demi's body is found. That just was. It made me. I couldn't stop laughing. It was so funny, and it was so funny because it was. It felt so true of the character. It wasn't like classic kind of quips. It was like very emotionally true of the character and totally surprising at the same time. So I think I giggled like a mad person for a while during that.
Yeah,
That'll-
absolutely.
that'll
That was a
definitely be on
scene
the reel.
that stuck out to me as making me laugh a lot. Finn made me laugh a lot, and Matthew Finland, who played Ezra, made me laugh a lot because he was doing it on purpose too, because he'd do something. I mean, it's such a physical performance, especially once he's blinded, and I was just beside him all the time. Like I just became kind of like his guide once he got blinded for a lot of scenes. So he would just be like touching me and like grabbing my shoulder. Like he'd get through a line that I wouldn't laugh, and then he'd grab my shoulders and he didn't know where he was, and it kept making me laugh.
Yeah, like when Billy, there's that part where they're in the back theater room and Ezra's like trying to talk to Demi, but he doesn't know where she is because he's blind, so he's talking a different way, and Billy just like grabs his head and like repositions it. And that took like a few
It took
takes
a long time.
because they just kept laughing over and over again. But yeah, I mean, what?
Is this bad? I think the actor that made you laugh the hardest was you.
That's true.
The scene, I'm just thinking specifically.
Oh, the
we're doing a
breathing?
blooper reel. Yeah, there was a scene
Yeah.
where Finn was like.
We had this
really
idea.
funny. Oh yeah.
We had this idea where, like, when Jason comes back from finding the severed head, and we're like, "Where's everyone?" I had this idea of like, in just the background of the scene while the scene is going on, that I'm just like breathing really loud and heavily, and it just distracts everyone, and like I couldn't stop laughing. I thought it was the funniest thing. I don't know what it was, but there's just something about like. It's like people talking about really serious things, and then you just hear like, and that made me laugh so fucking hard.
It was really making me laugh too. And then we added that in a little bit too. Like in the mix, Finn just a loud breather. We just would crank up his breathing noises. So there's one scene where we're all like lying in the bunk, and Bobby's sort of lying down, and then he just hears like,
and then like looks
and
over.
then I just slowly like annoyed look over, and then Fred. Also, I'm remembering the scene where I sort of tackle you to the ground. That was also like I laughed so many times in that scene. There was he kept going like, "I'm gonna bite you, Bobby."
That was the hardest I think I ever laughed that entire time on set is when me and Billy were on top of Fred and pause, and we were like
Applause.
Yeah, try applause. Thank you. It's just that when we were there, he just was like so in distress, like being like, Bobby, I'm gonna bite Bobby, don't do it. Really funny. Anyways, thank you for your
We
question.
have been working on a blooper reel that will be on the Blu-ray.
Yes, all that stuff we're talking about will be on the blooper reel.
Well, I'm so sorry, but we have to wrap up. Thank you guys all so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you everybody. You guys were an amazing audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
You guys.